Welcome along once again, my friends. Peter Rising here, Microsoft MVP. It's great to have you back on the channel once again, and this time from a slightly different setting. I'm going to be talking to you some more about learning Microsoft 365 from the very beginning. Now, in the last video, we started talking about managing users and groups, and we looked at how we could create and manage users, and we looked a little bit into how we could create and manage guest users as well. I'm going to continue first off by showing you a little bit more with guest users in relation to how you manage them with PowerShell, because we didn't really touch on that in the last video. We are then going to have a little bit more of a look at managing contacts, and then we'll dive into managing groups, including specifically Microsoft 365 groups. I'll explain the different types of groups to you available in Microsoft 365, so you'll learn all about them. And we'll learn how to allocate licenses using group-based licensing allocation with Azure AD. And finally, we'll look at some of the ways that you can perform bulk management with PowerShell in Azure AD. So lots of exciting stuff coming up. You're going to learn a lot, I can guarantee it. So without further ado, let's get started. So one thing I forgot to show you in the previous video was how to use PowerShell for working with user objects. And we launched the Windows PowerShell here and connect to the Microsoft Graph. Now I'm going to put some commands into the description here to show you how you get to this point, because there are some modules that you have to import before you can run this command, the connect-m graph command, to get connected to the graph. And what we're going to do here is we are going to follow the instructions in this Microsoft Learn document to send an invitation to effectively a test account. I mean, as it happens, this is a live account that I'm going to be working with here. And you'll see here this command here, it's a new invitation to one of my accounts, and I'm going to add this in, and I'm going to change this from the sample content that I have selected from the learn.microsoft.com documentation, which, as you know, I am a massive proponent of. I love this. So what we've got here is new -mg invitation, and we're going to invite the user with a display name of Peter Rising in quotations, and then I'm going to invited internal, so that's the invited user email address rather, then pop in that external email address, which in this case is a outlook.com address, and we'll apply that command and it runs successfully. So that is absolutely nice and straightforward. Now, disclaimer here, I did run that a couple of times and got the syntax slightly wrong. So it may take you a couple of attempts to get used to that, but I'll put some good links into the description on how you get used to these commands. So as you can see, we're in the Azure Portal here, and we give our users a refresh here, and there we go. Right away we can see we have a new guest user object for peter.rising@outlook.com, which is absolutely fantastic, all using that command when connected to the Microsoft Graph. Now we can use the get-mg user command to verify that the account actually exists within Azure Active Directory, and we can see a successful result there. So really cool stuff. And there are things we can do as we scroll down this Learn document to clean up inactive accounts. So we can remove the account as well using the GUID address that is included with the get results. So using that, if we do a refresh again, there we go, it takes that account away. All nice and simple. So that was one thing that I hadn't really shown you at the end of the last video with users. Now next, we are going to connect to the Exchange Online PowerShell here with my credentials to show you the next really cool thing within Microsoft 365. As you can see here, I'm signing in. I'm getting multi-factor authentication, which you always need, and I am connected to the Exchange Online PowerShell module. So what we're going to do here is we are actually going to add a new mail contact here called P Rising, which is going to point to another of my test accounts, peter.rising@peterrising.co.uk. And in Exchange Admin Center again, if we do a refresh, we can see that that has been successfully added in with the display name of Peter M Rising and that SMTP address of peter.rising@peterrising.co.uk. Now we can add, using the Exchange Online PowerShell, some additional contact details. We can add in the manager field and the department, the company name, and other attributes as well. But in this example, you can see when I've used the shell there, I have got some additional details in here. When I go into personal information, I can now see my title is manager. I'm in the security department. My manager is set to Annika Hansen in my tenant, but it's displaying as a GUID reference there in the user object for the mail contact object, I should say. And we can also remove the mail contact using PowerShell as well, using the remove-mail contact commandlet within that Exchange Online PowerShell. Really cool stuff indeed. And back in our contacts list, if we refresh our list, we can see that that mail contact is removed. And we are left with two items in that list, a mail contact and one more item. So now let's talk about groups a little bit. Groups in Microsoft 365 are a great way of assigning resources and services to users. And there are 4 distinct group types within Microsoft 365. You can see that we have the groups section selected within the Exchange Admin Center once again. Important to point that out at the moment. We will show you what that looks like in the M365 Admin Center, but we're going to add first of all a Microsoft 365 group, which is the type of group that you'll probably use the most. And as you can see, it is recommended. And this allows teams to collaborate by giving them a group email and a shared workspace for conversations, files, and calendars. And in Outlook, these are called groups. So we'll set up one of each of these in the following steps so you can get a feel for what these groups look like. But for the most part, you're going to be using Microsoft 365 groups, I would suggest. They really are the best in the modern experience of Microsoft 365. So we'll set up our basics. We'll set up a group name of enterprise. We can put in an optional description here. Always put in a description that's going to help your administrators. I've inventively called this one Picard's ship. And we can click on next to proceed to the next stage. We must assign owners who have unique permissions. They can add or remove members, delete conversations from the shared inbox, and change group settings. And group owners can also rename the group. And you have to have at least one owner, but it is recommended to have at least 2. So one can help out in the other's absence. So here we can click on assign owners, and we'll give the user Peter Rising the ownership of this group called Enterprise that we are creating. Clicking on next, we now need to add some members to our group who have access to everything within the group, including group content such as email messages and files, and a shared calendar. So if we go ahead and click on add members, we can choose the members that we want to add to the group. So I'm going to add Annika, I'm going to add Liam, and I'm going to add William. And I'll click on to add these 3 users. And there we go, we have those selected. We can click on next. Now we have to edit the settings and add a group email address here. So I'm going to type in enterprise. You can see the domain suffixes populated for me, and if the name is acceptable, it will be accepted. Underneath we have privacy selection, and we can choose between public groups or private groups, and you can see here that public groups can be joined by everyone or anyone, and private groups are by invitation. And you also have the option to create a Microsoft team to your group as well by selecting the checkbox. We'll do that for this example, and we'll click on next. Finally, we can review our settings, and then when we're happy we can go ahead and create the group. It's adding the group for us now, as you can see, and we just have to wait a few moments whilst it does that for us. Sometimes you have to be patient with some of these exercises within the various Microsoft 365 portals, the Exchange Admin Center in this case, as you can see. And there we go, the enterprise group has now been created, and as you can see we get a Teams notification as well. And if we click onto that, in fact I wasn't quite on time with that there, I missed the notification, so I'll click to open Teams, and I can see that the enterprise team has appeared. I can go into the team, into the general channel, and I can then click on the three dots and manage the team. I can see that as per the setup steps, I am a owner of the team, and I can see the members and guests, and we can see the 3 members that I added to the team in the setup. So that is absolutely grand. Close Teams off again there, and then we'll click on close on the group wizard creation, and there we can see the enterprise group created in our list of groups, or more accurately our Microsoft 365 groups there, shall we say. And you'll notice in this list of the groups, we can see some have the Teams status. Well, they all have the Teams status column there, but some have teams associated with them and some do not. Next, let's take a look at distribution lists. Now these groups, if you click to add a distribution list, you can create an email address for a group of people. Now it does tell you here, it suggests in this yellow dialog, why not create a Microsoft 365 group instead? In many situations that will be more appropriate, but just to show you the process of setting up a distribution list, we'll go ahead and set up the basics. We'll call this one Titan Crew, and in the description we'll put in the description of members of the USS Titan. Fantastic. We'll go ahead and click on next, and again we have to assign an owner. This time we will select Liam Shaw as the owner of our distribution list. We'll go ahead and click on next. We need to add some members. So who can we add to this new distribution group? We'll add Annika Hansen, and we'll go ahead and add William Riker as well. Add those 2 in, and there they are, and we can click on next. As per the Microsoft 365 group that we set up in the previous step, we have to add a group email address. So we'll call this one Titan Crew. Domain suffix is already there, and we're going to allow communication with this checkbox from people outside of the organization. Then for joining the group, we'll set this to owner approval as well. We can set it to open or closed as well. And additionally, for leaving the group, we can give the user the decision whether they can leave it, or close means that it's not their decision. We'll go ahead and create that group. It's adding it again, and there we go. We have ourselves a distribution list. It takes us back to that column. Do a quick refresh or 2. You sometimes have to be a little bit patient for that to appear. We'll do another refresh, and there it is. We have our distribution list for Titan Crew. We can click onto it and open it up, and we can get a summary there of the information that we've set up. We can see its email address, its aliases, and we can look at the members and settings. We'll close that off. Next, let's take a look at a dynamic distribution list. Now, as you might imagine, a dynamic distribution list differs from a normal one, in that you create rules in a dynamic distribution to determine who is going to be members. So again, we'll need to set up a name and the description for our dynamic distribution list. So let's go ahead and type that in, and we will call this one Enterprise Crew. And for the description, we click in there, and do you know what? You should really add a description, but just for the purposes of a demo, I'm going to skip on this occasion and click to next. Now here again, we need to make some selections. I'm going to select an owner, and I'm going to add Liam Shaw as the owner, and then the members. We can choose if we want all recipient types, or we can select a specific recipient type, such as users with Exchange mailboxes, and so on and so forth. And members in this group can be added depending on certain conditions, and you can use state or province or company or department or custom attributes. So I'm going to choose a department field, and I'm going to put the department field of Titan in there. You can add other conditions if you want as well, and other rules, shall I say, and then click next. I realized this was the enterprise group actually, and I've actually called this Titan, so a slight mistake there, but I've clicked next now, so I'm kind of committed to it. Click through, and there we go. Enterprise crew is created, but it isn't ready to use yet. It's telling us there that the group was created, but we're still preparing it for use, and it may take up to 2 hours until you can send a message to the group. So just be aware of that before you try and use a group. And there we go. We come right back into the dynamic distribution list tab, and there is our enterprise crew list, although it's got Titan details in there just to confuse you a little bit. Finally, let's set up a mail-enabled security group. And this sends messages to all members of the group and gives access to resources such as OneDrive, SharePoint, and admin roles as well. So we'll go ahead and create a mail-enabled security group as our last example, and we shall go ahead and click on next. Again, we need to assign a name to the group, and optionally a description. So we're going to call this one, what should we call this one? Running out of inventive names to put into these fields. I know we'll use another starship name. We'll call this one Reliant Crew, and I'll leave the description blank on this occasion. Yeah, we'll click next. We'll give it an owner. Who can we put as owner this time? Let's use Annika Hansen. She's going to transfer from the Titan to the Reliant. If you know your Star Trek, you'll get that reference. Okay, we've added our owner. Let's add some members to the group. Who we're going to choose here? Let's pick on, let's see, I'll choose myself there. And yeah, we'll just add me for now. And we'll click on next. We can add other ones later. And I might add William Riker in a bit later to show you a specific example. Okay, the group email address, we'll type that in as reliantcrew at peterrisingm365.com. Again, I'm going to allow communication from people outside the organization for the group. I'm going to require approval to join. And then I'll click on create group, and it's created. Nice and simple. So you saw how easy that all was to do. We'll click on close there. And we have our mail-enabled security group created. Again, we might just need to give that a little refresh, or to see that. Oh, we go back to the Microsoft 365 tab and see the groups in there. Now, that was specifically in the Exchange Admin Center, you will notice, which you get from the Admin Center section of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. But looking at active teams and groups within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center at admin.microsoft.com, you can see pretty much the exact same view here with those tabs with the types of groups represented. And you can create a new group in exactly the same way, near enough. So the experience is very similar. It's very different at portal.azure.com though. If you go into groups in the Azure portal, the experience looks and feels a lot different. You can see the same information. You can see a few extra columns such as the object ID there. But if you go into this area, let's collapse that sidebar there just to get a little bit more screen space. And we click on new group. The wizard has some different look and feel to it. We can still choose the group types, but more limited set of choices. We can add our name and description. We can choose whether Azure AD roles can be assigned to the group. And again, we can choose the membership type with the option to add a dynamic device here through this portal as well, actually. And we can assign owners and members. So that is something that you can do from the Azure portal. So many ways that admins can create and manage their groups from the different portals. I personally prefer the M365 admin portal as a general rule of thumb. Now let's see what happens when we delete a group. Back in the M365 Admin Center, I'm going to delete the enterprise group. And when you delete this group or the team associated with it, then you can restore that team and its data for up to 30 days. And I'll show you how that works and how it looks and feels. When I click on delete team, it does it instantly and it shows me that enterprise was deleted. And it reminds me once again that I can restore this Microsoft 365 team for the next 30 days. And I come out, I'm back in my Microsoft 365 list of groups. There we go, and the group is gone. So go back into my side panel and click on deleted groups. Now it doesn't seem to be there immediately, so I'm going to go and click onto refresh, and there it is. So it's there, and it will remain there for that period of 30 days. But what if I want to delete that quicker than that 30 days? Well, I can actually use the Windows PowerShell to do that. Start up a PowerShell session, and I'm going to connect to Azure AD, and I'm going to log in with, in this case, my global admin credentials. Put those in and click on sign in. Respond to my multi-factor authentication prompt on my Microsoft Authenticator app, and there we go, I am connected, and it shows me the account and the environment and the tenant ID and domain that I'm connected to. Okay, great. Now I'm going to put in the command get-azure ADMS deleted group, and there it goes. It shows me the GUID ID of the group, the display name of enterprise, and the description, which is Picard's ship. Now I can use the remove-azure ADMS deleted directory object -ID and put in the GUID name, and it deletes it. And if I didn't do the get Azure command again, it's gone quickly, just like that. And back in the portal, I do a refresh a couple of times, and we can see that is now gone from the deleted groups area. And it's a good thing to be able to do if sometimes you might want to use the same name again for another group. I've had that situation crop up, and if you don't go through that stage, then you won't be able to do it. Okay, so next, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to connect to Azure AD again and log in. Enter my credentials once again. Ooh, I've left a dot in the username. I don't know why I set that up without a dot in, because I always use a dot just to confuse myself. Let's try that again. Enter the password and click to sign in and respond to MFA. Okay, we are good. We're connected to Azure AD once again. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I am going to actually add an Azure ADD directory role member object to a user, and I'm going to give Liam Shaw access to the SharePoint administrator role. Again, I'll paste some links to how you do that. But that's nice and simple. And if we go into the active users within the M365 Admin Center, we click on Liam, we can see that we have quickly changed him from a normal role into a SharePoint admin role. Not strictly, well, not at all tied to groups, really, but I thought it was a cool thing to show you whilst I was in the Azure AD PowerShell, and I thought of it. Next, what I want to show you finally in relation to groups is group-based licensing. So in the Azure Portal, if we go into the Azure Portal under Azure AD and licenses and license features first, you can see all of the license features available under our current licensing. Then if we click on all products, we can see that we have Microsoft 365 Business Premium. We can see the total that we've got and the total number assigned. And if we click further on there, we can see the users who have a current active license assignment. Note that it's just Annika, Liam, and Peter at the moment. Now, if we go into licensed groups, what we're going to do here is we're going to assign a group to a license. And then following that, we will assign the user William Riker to that group, and it will automatically license him because William does not have a license at the moment. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so if we click on assign, what we can do here under users and groups, click on add users and groups, and we can select the user. Sorry, we can select the group here rather that we want to base this on. So I'm going to select Reliant Crew, and remember I mentioned that only Peter was a member of that when I set it up earlier on. Next, I'm going to click the assignment options, and here what I can do is I can granularly select the individual services and features within Microsoft 365 Business Premium that I want the users who are members of this group to have. So I can go through and I can turn certain features on or off, and anyone in this group will receive this flavor of this license. So it's a really quick and powerful way. I can turn off Microsoft Bookings, I can turn off Forms and Kazala, if anyone still uses that. I don't know if any of you do. Let me know if you do. Let's click on Review and Assign. And that's cool. Okay. And then we can click on Assign, and it goes ahead and assigns effectively that license configuration with those distinctions, those granular settings to that group, that Reliant Crew group. So that is cool. We do a quick refresh there once again. Let's click on refresh, and are we seeing anything? Not just yet. Another try, and there we go. A bit of patience, and there we go. We can see the license group, and we can see some changes pending. Okay, let's go back to our admin center, and we're going to click on William Riker back in the Microsoft 365 admin center. And we need to add him to this group. So if we click on to manage groups and assign memberships, I want to add him to the Reliant Crew group, and click on add. And there we go, and click on the arrow to come out and come out there again. Do a quick refresh. He was unlicensed, but a quick refresh, and we can see very quickly that William Riker now has a Microsoft 365 Business Premium license, which is really cool, and all through in here in the Azure Portal under license groups in Azure Active Directory. That is the power of group-based licensing. And the final item in there is the service plan details, where you can see all the services that are included in Microsoft 365 Business Premium. Now, just to show you something in the Entra portal, entra.microsoft.com, and just verify my credentials in there. You cannot actually do that group-based licensing from within the Entra portal at the time of recording this video. That's not to say that it won't come in the fullness of time, but as you navigate through the Azure Active Directory menu settings on the side there, I've certainly not seen a way to do that just at the moment by clicking on the various things. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I've missed something there. I am always happy to be corrected. None of us can ever know everything about this, and there are always things we're going to miss for sure. Now, the final thing I want to show you in this video is a reference to this particular learn.microsoft.com document, where it gives you guidance on how you can connect to the multiple PowerShell modules, all using one long command string. So you can connect to Azure Active Directory, you can connect to SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, the security and compliance PowerShell module, and Microsoft Teams as well. Those of you who aren't new to Microsoft 365 may remember some older modules like MSOL Online, which isn't really used anymore. Really now you're going to be using those newer commands and the Microsoft Graph. And that's it for this video, folks. A whirlwind whistle-stop tour of some great settings in Microsoft 365. The Exchange Admin Center as well. It's really, really cool, I think, how the Exchange Admin Center and the Microsoft 365 Admin Center are getting closer and closer together in recent iterations. There was a time, those of you who are not familiar with those older versions, where they looked completely different. They've really come closer together. So if you're working in one or the other. The experience in many situations is going to be quite similar, which is really, really cool. Now, in this series, we are really rapidly moving through the first big section of the MS-102 exam guide now, which is deploying and managing a Microsoft 365 tenant. And the last real section within that group, that category, if you like, is managing roles within Microsoft 365. So in the next one, we're going to look at managing roles in M365 and Azure AD, managing role groups for things like Microsoft Defender, Purview, and other Microsoft 365 workloads, looking at how we can manage delegation by using something called administrative units, and a really, really cool feature, which is implementing privileged identity management, or PIM, for Azure Active Directory roles. Now, that's a lot of content in that last section before we can get on to the next big section of the exam guide that we're working to. So we'll break that down into a few videos. We've got a lot of great stuff to come, and I do hope you enjoy it. As ever, I welcome your thoughts and comments on this video, any previous ones. Give me some thoughts and suggestions for what you'd like to see, anything I might have missed. It's near enough impossible to cover the entire syllabus of learning Azure AD in these short, punchy videos. I like to keep them as quick flowing as possible and include references to useful learning materials in the description. But there are always other ways that you can learn as well. So do look at books and video sites and all that good stuff also. But hopefully you get some good learning experience from the content that I'm trying to share with you. Admittedly, I'm relearning a few things along the way and seeing some new updates, because this platform is not a constant thing. It's ever changing, ever growing, ever evolving. And every time I look in one of the various portals, I inevitably and invariably notice something that's new that I haven't seen before, which is great. So it's a great piece of technology to be working with. Finally, I'll wrap this one up. Thank you so much for the support you've shown me and this channel in the short time that it's been going. I've been going about 2 weeks so far, and I've been really, really humbled and delighted and thrilled by the response to the channel, and how many of you have liked and shared and subscribed. Please keep spreading the word. I do want to try and help as many people as I can, and share what I have learned, pass it on, and enable you fine folks out of there to go and do great stuff with this platform. So you know where I am by now, hopefully. If you don't, for some reason, it's youtube.com/@PeterRisingM365. Please hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel to grow. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on a new video, and do give a like and a comment and a share. Really, really do appreciate it. Okay, you all take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.